Hey there guys, it's Skipper Megan. Welcome back to our Walt Disney World trip planning series. Last week we talked about making dining reservations and I mentioned that today we were going to be talking about FastPasses. Now this one could be a little bit long, so just go ahead and prepare for that. Hopefully a lot of this information is going to be really helpful for you. Hopefully you learned something, and let's get started. So the first thing is I'm going to talk about a little bit about what FastPasses actually are for those of you who are not as familiar with the Disney parks and their FastPass options. And then I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about how you actually use them and some of my recommendations for each park in Walt Disney World. So the first thing is a FastPass is just a line skipping opportunity that you have at Walt Disney World. A lot of theme parks have this opportunity. The difference is at Disney World you don't have to pay for it. FastPass Plus and FastPass at Disneyland are absolutely free. They're included with your park admission, so you don't ever have to pay an extra fee in order to have this shorter line for certain attractions benefit. So the most important thing about FastPass is that it is free, it is included with your park admission. The second most important thing is that if you are staying on Disney property, you're going to have the opportunity to book your FastPasses 60 days in advance. And if you're not staying on Disney property, you're going to be able to book them 30 days in advance. Now, all of that means is for people who are staying on property, they're going to be able to get a lot more of the high-ticket attractions a little bit earlier. Like I mentioned last week with the dining reservation, some of these things do go very quickly, so you're going to want to book them as soon as you possibly can. So if you're getting to book 60 days in advance instead of 30, you're going to get a few better attractions at different times. There's obviously still going to be plenty of things available. It's never going to be where every FastPass is booked for every park on every day of your trip. That's never going to happen. So you're always going to have the opportunity to book something, but people who are booking 60 days in advance are going to have a wider selection of things that are available. The main benefit of being able to book your FastPasses 60 days in advance rather than 30 is you're going to have a wider selection of times available, so you're going to have better time slots that you can select to actually ride that attraction. If you have it 30 days in advance or you wait till closer to your vacation to book, you may have time slots that are very late in the day. You know, you're booking FastPasses for 8, 9 o'clock at night rather than earlier in the day, so then you have to wait until that time at night to use them. Which leads me into my next point. You can book 3 at a time, and after you've used those 3, you can then book another one. So if you're booking your first FastPass is not until 8 o'clock at night, then you're not going to be able to use those 3 up and then also get more. So the earlier you're able to book your FastPasses in the day, if you're able to get one at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, and have them done by around noon, then you're going to be able to book an extra one, that 4th FastPass, as many times as you want throughout the day. As soon as you use those first 3, then you can book a 4th. And then once you use that 4th, then you can book a 5th. You can only do one at a time for the rest of the day though, and that doesn't have to be in the same park. The first 3 you do have to book in the same park. If you're going to Magic Kingdom in the morning, you'll book 3 FastPasses for Magic Kingdom. And say later in the afternoon you decide, oh, we're going to go over to EPCOT, we're going to grab some dinner, and then we want to book a FastPass in EPCOT. You can do that, but you can only book 1 at that time. So then once you book that 1, you can book another after you've used it, and so on like that. So one tip that doesn't really pertain to FastPasses, but kind of goes along with what I was saying with you want to schedule your FastPasses early in the day so that you get them done and you can schedule more. Make sure that you're getting to the park at park open. If you're there when the opening show happens at Magic Kingdom, or you're just there for rope drop at any of the parks, that's where you get into the park a little bit before the park actually opens, and then they will lead you into the different lands of whatever park you're in. So you can go immediately at whatever time the park opens, you can go immediately to an attraction if you're there ahead of time. So if you are planning on arriving at the park when just like at the time that it opens, if the park opens at 9 and you're still on the monorail at like at 8:55, you're not going to be there for park open. So you want to be there probably 30 minutes before the announced park open time. That way that you are already through the turnstiles, you're already in the park, ready to go to an attraction. That way you can go to an attraction, you can go ahead and experience it. You don't need a FastPass for that. There's just going to be so few people in the park at that time that the lines are not going to be long yet. So you're going to be able to go in and not run, but quickly get over to Space Mountain. Go ahead and ride it, then you don't need to use a FastPass for it, unless you want to. You can ride it and then immediately have a FastPass scheduled for 9:15 to 10:15, and then you're going to be able to ride it twice within 20 minutes. So you're not going to have a long line, and you're essentially getting a free FastPass first thing in the morning because you're not going to have to wait in a line for it. So just make sure that you are getting there nice and early for the park open, and you're able to go and experience something first thing. If you've been to Walt Disney World before and you're used to the paper FastPasses, or you are used to Disneyland's paper FastPasses, it's going to be a little bit different. In 2013, they actually switched over to FastPass Plus, which is all electronic. It's all on your Magic Band, or if you're not staying on property, it's all on your park ticket. So when you get to the park, if you do just have a park ticket, that paper ticket, you're going to need to go to guest relations and they will swap it out for a hard plastic card. Like I mentioned, it'll be like a little credit card. And then that is what you're going to use to book your FastPasses. So you can either go to a FastPass kiosk at that time and book your FastPasses, or you can actually use the My Disney Experience app. Now, I highly recommend anyone who is going to Walt Disney World do use that Disney Experience app. It's going to be very, very helpful for a lot of things. You can check wait times, you can book fast passes on it, you can check dining options, you can find characters, where they are, when they're meeting. Just everything that you're going to need to know about Walt Disney World, you're going to find on that My Disney Experience app. So make sure you do download that and use that even before you arrive at Walt Disney World. If you go ahead and set up your My Disney Experience and have all of the people in your party already logged on to that one account, then when you go to book your FastPasses, everyone's already going to be linked and you can get the same FastPasses for your entire group much easier. If you do arrive at the park and you don't already have a Magic Band because maybe you're not staying on property, then you're going to go and get that plastic card and you're going to go to a kiosk. And those kiosks are located throughout the park. You can find them on a map, you can find them on the My Disney Experience app. And when you go to those kiosks, they're going to, if you don't already have your My Disney Experience set up, they're going to need to take a little bit of time to get everyone's names logged in, get everyone set up onto that one account. So if you go ahead and do that ahead of time, it's going to save you a little bit of time in the park. You can go and get on those attractions a little bit faster. So to actually use FastPass Plus, you're not going to have to go and get a paper FastPass, like I said, and then turn that in to a FastPass return stall when you come back to an attraction. What you're going to do is you're actually going to just be able to go online or onto your app or at the kiosk. Then you're going to be able to choose your attractions and pick the times that you want to go to them. You will have a 1 hour window to go, and if you go 5 minutes early, they'll let you in, and if you're 15 minutes late, they'll let you in, but anywhere outside of that, they're not going to let you in. That changed a few years ago, actually, while I was working at Disney. They used to, if your time had passed, you could come in anytime after that. That's not the case anymore, so don't have a fast pass at 3 in the afternoon, go home and take a nap, and then come back at 6 and be like, oh, well, we can use our fast pass still, because they will not let you in. It's 5 minutes before, 15 minutes after that 1 hour window. So when your window is open and you do go back to that attraction, then you're going to walk up to the FastPass return line. There's going to always be a FastPass return line next to the standby line for these attractions that do offer FastPass Plus. When you go up there, there's going to be a little pole right there at the line that has a Mickey symbol on it. And the cast member is just going to say, touch Mickey to Mickey. There's a little Mickey on your Magic Band. You'll just press that Mickey up against that Mickey on that pole, and if it's your window and you are there and it's ready to go, it'll spin and spin and spin, and then it'll turn green and you're good to go and you'll go on in. If it turns blue, something's gone wrong. Those cast members are there to help you out. Just don't barge right past. They'll be able to let you know what's going on if there's been some kind of issue, if something's been demagnetized. Sometimes that'll happen if you're using the card instead of your Magic Band. Don't ever store those in your wallet because they can demagnetize with credit cards and things like that. So always keep those separate. Keep them in the front pouch of a backpack where they're easy to grab. Keep them in a purse, a fanny pack, pocket, somewhere where you can grab those, but they're not going to be stored near any kind of magnetic strips that could demagnetize them. So that was just a really quick rundown of how you actually use FastPasses and what FastPasses are. So if you're still confused, if I glossed over something, just leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to explain a little bit more. But now we're going to move into what attractions are actually offered as FastPass experiences in each park and what some of my recommendations are. So at Magic Kingdom, almost all of the attractions that you can experience at Magic Kingdom are included in FastPass Plus. So you're just going to be picking any 3 attractions basically. There's a few that are not included. You can check out which attractions are offered as FastPass experiences on the My Disney Experience app or on the My Disney Experience website, and just see what you might be interested in doing and what you may have wanted to do that is not a FastPass experience. So you can kind of prioritize what things you need to get a FastPass for, what things do not offer FastPass, so maybe you need to go a little bit earlier in the day or something like that to get to those. So for Magic Kingdom, the experiences that we recommend getting a FastPass for are Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. That is one of the longest lines that you will have at Magic Kingdom. The line is usually upwards of an hour, more towards an hour and a half a lot of the times, because that's one of the newest attractions. So if you're going to want to ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, definitely recommend getting a Fast Pass for that. And some of the other options are the mountains: Space Mountain, Splash Mountain, Thunder Mountain. You can only get 3 at a time, so if you use one for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, then I would recommend using another for Thunder Mountain. Thunder Mountain, I definitely always use a Fast Pass for. The queue is technically under an awning. It is a little bit shaded. If it's raining, you're not going to get completely soaked, but it is outdoors. There is no air conditioning. There are a few small fans, but the queue is very close and it is very, very hot during the day. So if I plan on going on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, I always, always, always get a FastPass, just because I cannot stand in that line for the hour that the queue usually extends. The other option then is, of course, using Space Mountain or Splash Mountain. I don't usually go on Splash Mountain because I don't like getting wet. But Splash Mountain is, of course, one of those very classic attractions that a lot of people really enjoy going on. And it is a fun ride. It's a long ride, so it's a really great use of your FastPass if you want to do that. So you get a lot of ride, and you don't have to wait in line, so that's a really good option. And the other good option is Space Mountain. Since Space Mountain's queue is indoors, if you are wanting to not have to wait outside for very long, then maybe use your third FastPass for Splash Mountain, which does have an outdoor queue, and then you can wait in the Space Mountain line, because even if it does extend to about an hour, 75 minutes or so, then you're still going to be indoors. There's going to be a little bit of air conditioning. You'll be shaded. You won't get wet, and that queue is a lot easier to deal with than some of the outdoor lines. One of the other things that I recommend with FastPasses is if you have small children, maybe you want to go on Peter Pan. That is a good option to use a FastPass for it. The lines for that can get very, very long. It's just one of those classic Disney attractions. It is not a thrill ride by any means, but it is a classic Disney attraction that does tend to have a very long line at all times of the day. Don't use a FastPass for the Jungle Cruise. I love the Jungle Cruise. We all love the Jungle Cruise. You don't need a FastPass for it. Do not go to the Jungle Cruise during the middle of the day. That is one of my biggest recommendations. From about noon to about 4, it's very, very crowded. Don't use a FastPass for it, but also don't go during that time. Go earlier in the morning or go late at night. Some of the other attractions that are also very, very popular that you might think, oh, we should probably get a FastPass for that, but you don't really need to. Small World. It's a Small World is a very popular attraction. It has been there for so many years. Everyone knows that wonderful, wonderful song, but you're not really going to need a FastPass for that. The lines typically move pretty quickly because the boats are constantly cycling. Same thing with Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates can have a little bit longer lines, so if you want to use a FastPass for that, we've done that before. That can sometimes be a good use of a FastPass, but it's, once again, it's constantly moving, so you may not necessarily need one. And Haunted Mansion is an Omnimover ride as well, constantly loading, constantly moving. You are not really ever going to need a FastPass for that unless you just really want to. If you have a limited time and you're like, we definitely 100% want to go on the Haunted Mansion, that's the only attraction that we even care that we go on, get a FastPass for it. You never want to not use your FastPasses. So say you don't want to ride Space Mountain or Splash Mountain or any of the thrill rides at Magic Kingdom, that's fine. Make sure you do use those FastPasses for something, because they're included with your ticket. It's not like you're paying extra for them. They're just there for you to use. So make sure that you always use them for something. So those are just a few of my recommendations for Magic Kingdom. Obviously, if there's something that you want to ride and it offers a FastPass, go to town, get that FastPass for it. And those are just some of the things that we like to do when we go to the parks. So we've talked about Magic Kingdom. The next park that we're going to talk about is Animal Kingdom. So one of my recommendations is make sure that you are partaking of those extra magic hours if they're taking place in Animal Kingdom in the morning, or make sure that you're going early in the morning for rope drop. That way that you can go ahead and go do the Kilimanjaro safaris in the Africa section of Animal Kingdom, because you want to do that first thing in the morning. That's when the animals are going to be the most active. That's when you're going to be able to see the most animals, and you're also not going to be out there when it's very, very hot in the middle of the day, because the animals aren't going to be out, you're not going to feel like being out, and it's not going to be as fun for you. So make sure that you're partaking of that first thing in the morning, and then you don't have to use a FastPass for it. So that you get that out of the way and you free up those 3 spots still for 3 more attractions. And those 3 attractions that I always recommend doing are Expedition Everest, which is my favorite attraction on Disney property, and then Dinosaur, which is also very fun, and the Festival of the Lion King, which is my favorite show on property. So maybe you're not as into shows as I am, and you don't want to use a FastPass for a show because you can just get in the standby line and still see the show just fine. Another popular attraction that a lot of people do use a FastPass for is Kali River Rapids. That is over in the Asia section, kind of over near Expedition Everest, and it is a water ride, like I mentioned earlier. Not the biggest fan of getting wet. So that's not one that I usually use, but a lot of people really enjoy booking a FastPass for that around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, right when it is the absolute hottest in Florida, and you just get on there and you kind of cool off, because you will get wet, you may get soaked, is what they say at Kali River Rapids. You're going to get wet no matter where you're sitting. So if that's something that you are interested in, then that is another one of the higher ticket items, and you will definitely make good use of a FastPass if that's something that you're wanting to do. So EPCOT and Hollywood Studios are a little bit different than Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, like I said, most of their attractions you can book a FastPass for. You just pick your 3 and you are good to go. For Hollywood Studios and EPCOT, they have tier systems. There is a tier 1 and a tier 2, and the different attractions that are offered for FastPass are separated into those two. And you can only pick one attraction from tier 1 and 2 attractions from tier 2, which unfortunately means that some of the very, very popular attractions are all grouped into one tier, and you're going to have to make a decision on which one you want to do more, which one you would rather use a FastPass for. So for EPCOT, the tier 1 attractions from which you can only pick one to use a FastPass are Frozen Ever After, the new Frozen ride in the Norway Pavilion, Soarin', which is the hang gliding experience that is in Future World, Test Track, and Illuminations, which is the fireworks show at the end of the night. Out of those 4, you can only pick one, and those 4 are very popular. So you're going to have to kind of decide who you're traveling with, what your party is interested in doing more. I never say get a FastPass for Illuminations, because you can see Illuminations 360 degrees around World Showcase Lagoon. You're always going to be able to see it from wherever you are, so you don't really need to get a FastPass to get that priority area to stand and view the fireworks. So I would say don't use it for that, but if, like I said, if that's what you are coming to see, if you definitely want to see Illuminations and that's the only thing you care about in EPCOT, use FastPass for it, because why not? You definitely want to use it. If you're traveling with young princesses who absolutely love Anna and Elsa, you're probably going to want to use that FastPass for the Frozen attraction. Frozen has had wait times up to 5 hours. That was closer to when it opened, but yes, people have waited for 5 hours. If you are an adult and you maybe don't care as much about Frozen, then use it for Test Track or Soarin'. If you are an adult and you would like to ride the Frozen attraction, we did that. We were curious. We used a FastPass for it because Test Track and Soarin' both have indoor queues. So if you do have to wait in line for 45 minutes to an hour for one of those attractions, you're inside. You're in air conditioning. It's not that bad. But you don't want to be standing for an hour and a half in Norway, stretching out into the outdoor area between Norway and China, which the line typically does extend almost to the China Pavilion. So if you are going to be wanting to ride Frozen, I would suggest using a FastPass for it. But if you're not interested in Frozen, then I would say either Soarin' or Test Track, whichever one of those appeals more to you. So since for tier 2 is basically the rest of the attractions at EPCOT, I'm not going to list all of them out for you, but I am going to insert a chart here, and I'll do the same for Hollywood Studios in a few minutes, showing you the tiers and what all your options are in each tier, and also what my recommendations are in each tier. But out of tier 2, my recommendations are to use FastPasses for Mission Space and Spaceship Earth. Spaceship Earth is, of course, the giant geodesic sphere in the front of EPCOT. It's the giant golf ball that you know from EPCOT. There's actually a ride in there. A lot of people don't know that. When they arrive at EPCOT, they immediately see, oh my gosh, you can go in the ball, and the line gets kind of long. So use a FastPass for it. So for Hollywood Studios, the tier 1 options are Toy Story Midway Mania, Rock and Roller Coaster, Beauty and the Beast Stage Show, Fantasmic, and the Great Movie Ride. So once again, Fantasmic is a fireworks show at the end of the night. Well, more than fireworks, but it's the end of the evening show. And so you're going to be able to get a seat there. If you don't want to use a FastPass for that, then don't. So this is one of the times that we definitely have seen that it is so important to get there at rope drop, because this is such a difficult choice to make between a couple of these attractions in tier 1. So when you get to Hollywood Studios, you're going to need to immediately go to one of the attractions and have a FastPass ready for the other. We typically, now that Toy Story Mania has an extra track, the line is a little bit shorter than it used to be, so we typically make a FastPass reservation for Rock and Roller Coaster for about 15 to 20 minutes into park open. So the park opens at 9. We usually have our FastPass start at about 9:20 and go until about 10:20. That gives us an hour and 20 minutes from the time the park opens to go and experience Toy Story Midway Mania and then get over to Rock and Roller Coaster. We do choose to have the FastPass for Rock and Roller Coaster over Toy Story Mania because Toy Story's queue is once again indoors. So we would rather wait in that standby line inside rather than in Rock and Roller Coasters, which does extend outside and sometimes can extend pretty far even early in the morning. So we immediately go to Toy Story and then have our FastPass ready for Rock and Roller Coaster. But you can obviously switch those. You can pick something else. The Great Movie Ride, usually the line is not that long, and if it is, a lot of it is indoors. So that's one that we don't usually use a FastPass for. But on really, really busy days, it could be a good option. So just make sure that you're picking the one out of that category that you want to do the most. So for Tier 2 at Hollywood Studios, basically the same thing as with EPCOT earlier. it's basically the rest of the attractions in the park. So I'm gonna again have a chart inserted here with all of your different options, and you can see what my recommendations are. Those being Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, which is some people's very favorite ride on property. That would be my husband. I'm not a fan of drops, but we ride it. I shake the entire time, but it's okay. But Tower of Terror is a good option in that tier, as well as Star Tours. We are also really big fans of Star Wars, so that's one of the things that we always like to use our FastPass for in that tier. Some of the other options that we have used are Indiana Jones, which is a really fun show. It is outdoors, so if you're hoping to be inside and kind of away from the heat for a little while, just be aware that that is still an outdoor attraction. It's covered, but there's no air conditioning in there, so just something to keep in mind with that. So I think I have rambled on about FastPasses for about long enough. If I missed anything, if you still have questions, if I skipped something, just go ahead and let me know. I'd be happy to answer it for you. I'm sure that there's some things that I've forgotten to mention. But once again, the important things to remember are make sure that you are utilizing